Hello, everyone. Welcome to the conversation with the Hawaii Cyber Lions Club. My name is Lion Chris Lumley, president of the Hawaii Cyber Lions Club. I come to you today with our new friends from the Leader Dogs for the Blind with an important presentation. At this time, I do want to make a few housekeeping rules. First, for everybody watching via YouTube, if you can please look somewhere below this screen where we are and hit the like and subscribe button. That way you get more notifications about when we post additional content, and it helps us out with our YouTube algorithm. Further, for all attendees, if everybody could please turn their microphones on mute during the presentation so we can kind of drown out any background noise. If you have a question, as when we do our follow-up Q&A after, then you may unmute and then please mute again. Also, as happens to be with platforms such as Zoom, if for some reason you're not particularly dressed for the occasion and you need to step away from your computer, if you can please turn off your camera as you do so, that would really help a lot. That said, I'll turn it over at this time to our friend Mike at Leader Dogs for the Blind. Thanks, Mike.
Chris, thanks so much. Lynn and John and I, and I'll more properly introduce them in just a second, but I don't really have a bucket list. But we've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings. COVID, one of the unanticipated advantages, I think, of COVID is it's forced us to find different ways of presenting the information we have about Leader Dog. You're way ahead of the curve, Chris, and Cyber Lions from Hawaii, because you've got the whole thing already put together. And we are encouraging clubs that we do presentations with to continue to offer, when they start meeting in person, to continue offering an option so that people who can't attend physically can join them via Zoom or some other platforms. So I applaud you for what you're doing. As I said before we got started a couple of minutes ago, I'm so impressed with what I have seen with your club and with the Facebook that you've created a model for other clubs to emulate. We are delighted to be here. John and Lynn Morris are Lions from Peterborough, Ontario. They are my co-Leader Dog chairs, if you will, for Northern Ontario. And I've asked them to join us, and Lynn's going to share her story in just a few minutes. And as she talks about the journey that she's taken, keep in mind that it was all possible because of the support we get from Lions around North America, and in particular, the United States and Canada. So let's get started a little bit. We are on the same 14 acres today that we have been for the last 82 years. And because of Lions like you, every single product and service that we provide is absolutely free to our clients. A little bit of history. 82 years ago, we had three Lions from Detroit, who had a mutual friend in their club who was a doctor. He was blind, and they wanted to get him a guide dog. Now remember, this is 1938, late 1938, early 1939. They reached out to the only guide dog organization in North America at that time, that was Seeing Eye out of New Jersey, and said they'd do whatever they had to do to enable him to get a guide dog. And for whatever reason, that application was declined. But being Lions and seeing an opportunity and a need, they didn't get angry. They decided to come up with a way of getting a guide dog for their friend. And they actually partnered with a gentleman in Detroit who raised Dobermans and trained them. And they went to him and said, could you, we've got a friend who's blind. Do you think you could teach one of your dogs to get him safely across the street without getting hit by a trolley car or a bus or something like that? He said, I think I can do that. Several months later, 4 dogs were trained. And that became the very first class before incorporation of Leader Dogs for the Blind. And I say before incorporation because in April of 1939, April 4th of 1939, they were so emboldened by their success with those 4 clients that they decided to incorporate and see if that organization could grow. And since that time, we have placed over 15,000 dogs in the hands of the blind and visually impaired and worked with over 17,000 clients. Just an amazing partnership between Lions and Leader Dog. And Lions have been with us every step of the way. And why is this so important? Because blindness changes everything. As you can see from the slide on the screen, we have 1.3 million people who are blind in the United States of America. Another 5 million people, 50,000 people in Canada. Another 5,000 people will become blind in Canada every single year. 75,000 more people will become blind in the United States this year. That's 205 people every single day. So there's definitely a need. And the statistics are absolutely staggering. Consider this. 60% of the people who are blind or visually impaired are either unemployed or underemployed. And that is typically because of a lack of transportation. They just can't get to the job. They can perform it, but they have no way of getting there. 90% live in low income settings. 43% live with depression. And the most staggering statistic to me is this one, that only 1% of the people who are blind travel independently and safely with a cane or a guide dog. 10%. That means that 90% of the people who are blind or visually impaired either don't travel or have to rely on a sighted guide, a friend, a neighbor, a spouse, a partner, someone who can get them where they want to go. And if that isn't the case, that 90% simply doesn't travel at all. And can you imagine what kind of existence that might be? This is where Leader Dog comes in. We have 3 programs: Guide Dog, Orientation Mobility, which is White Cane, and Summer Experience Camp. We're going to focus this morning on Guide Dog training, but I want to give you a little insight to Orientation Mobility. We're the only guide dog organization anywhere, and I mean anywhere, that brings clients on campus for 5 full days for White Cane training. There are other organizations that provide cursory training, if you will, or sporadic training with White Cane. But Leader Dogs for the Blind will bring people on campus for 5 full days of one-on-one White Cane training. Again, the only organization anywhere that does that. And because of so many cutbacks in services in different municipalities, that sporadic orientation mobility training, White Cane training, has become less and less obvious and apparent in those areas. We have something else called Summer Experience Camp. Once again, we're the only guide dog organization anywhere, and I mean anywhere, that brings 16 and 17-year-old blind kids on campus for 1 full week at Leader Dog. They have an opportunity to interact with other kids with similar experiences. They go to a place called Bear Lake Camp in Lower Michigan, and that's a place designed by Lions, developed by Lions, created by Lions, for kids who have physical impairments or visual impairments. They have an opportunity to do things that other kids would love to do: zip line, rock wall climbing, kayaking. They spend a day on campus test driving a Leader Dog to find out if at some point they'd like to come back and get one. The whole focus is on enhancing their leadership opportunities and experiences, because like most kids who have some, quote, challenge or disability, they're not the first ones who are selected to participate in any activities or game by other people. So this gives them an opportunity to experience those kinds of things with peers in their peer group. The guide dog training, well, let's look at some of the programs we actually have with guide dog training. We actually have 4 different options, training options. The first is on-campus training. Clients are brought on campus, and keep in mind, this is all free of charge to our clients, regardless of where they're coming from. No expense to the client. On-campus training lasts about 21 days. They have an opportunity to get away from the distractions from being at home for that 21-day period. They have an opportunity to travel and train on campus in our fabulous training facility. They also have an opportunity to go to a couple of nearby towns like the city of Detroit, like Rochester, where we're located, Birmingham, a couple of other ones as well, and work on those traffic patterns, work with the guide dog mobility instructors to teach them how to get from place to place in areas that would be similar to what they're going back to in their own home. They have an opportunity which is extremely important for many of these clients, because much like the kids I described a few minutes ago, with many of our clients, this is the first time they've ever been away from home. Minimum age is 16. The top end, we don't know what that is, because we've had clients in their 90s come to Leader Dog to get a leader dog. And as long as they are physically able and capable of handling a dog, they can come to leader dog, and again, with no expense. So the on-campus training gives them a lot of opportunities that they wouldn't have otherwise. Another opportunity for training is home delivery. When our clients are not able to come to leader dog because of family obligations or job obligations, we do home deliveries. We have done home deliveries in 43 states, including Hawaii and Alaska, home deliveries. We've also done 6 provinces in Canada. This has become exceedingly important during COVID, and I'll talk about some numbers in just a few minutes on that home delivery. I neglected to tell you about a couple of pictures we've got up there. The lower left-hand corner is on-campus training. That's 2 of our clients. We've been open and closed and open again during COVID. This is one of the periods, because I hope you can see the masks that they're wearing, when we've taken and put together several protocols driven by COVID to keep them safe and secure, and let them train on campus. So this is a picture of them training with their dogs on campus. The picture in the middle, I'm going to come back to them in just a minute. That's Lynn and John Morris with their leader dogs. That was a in-home delivery. And I'm going to talk a minute about flex training. And flex training is a third option. And that is just as it sounds. It's a combination of on-campus training and home delivery training. Because one of the advantages of home delivery is that the client is actually working in their neighborhood, their hometown. They are working in traffic patterns and routes that they are that are specific to where they live. That's a major, major advantage for them. Flex training combines the two. On-campus training for about 10 days, where you get all the advantages that I talked about on-campus training. And then also, after about 10 days, we pack the client up, the guide dog mobility instructor, the trainer, and go back to their hometown and spend about 10 days there as well. So it is the best of both worlds. It gives them the opportunity to experience things on the on-campus, and also an opportunity to work right in their own home environment. And it is an amazing program. The picture on the far right is one of our deafblind training instructors. This is critically important. And again, I hope you understand the trend here. In 1992, Leader Dogs for the Blind, because of the support of Lions, became the first guide dog organization on the planet, not just North America, but the first on the planet to have a dedicated deaf-blind program, which means that a person who is not only blind, but also profoundly deaf can come to Leader Dog and get a Leader Dog. They use tactile sign language, American Sign Language, depending upon the degree of vision they might have. And I hasten to say that because we have a tendency to believe that a person who is blind is totally blind. I'm going to give you that 90-10 thing again. About 90% of the people who are legally blind have some degree of vision, but it's not sufficient to travel safely and independently. They're considered legally blind. In the deaf-blind training world, that statistic is the same. So if they have some degree of vision, they might be able to use ASL, American Sign Language. And if not, both the client, the student, if you will, and the dog are taught to react to tactile sign language. It is an amazing program. We are still the only guide dog organization in the Western Hemisphere that has this, that is a dedicated program. And again, all of these services are absolutely free because of Lions like you. All of us have been affected by COVID to some degree or another. And we've all got our own COVID stories. Some of us haven't hugged our parents or our kids or grandkids for over a year. It's getting better simply because of the immunization and the shots that we can be getting. Some of us have had to work remotely. Most of us at Leader Dog, and I'm still working remotely except for about 1 day a week right now. Some of us haven't had club meetings. Our own club, Judy's club and my club that we belong to in Clarkston, Michigan, we didn't meet for 1 full year. 1 full year. We didn't have contact with our club members. Many of our club fundraising efforts have been canceled for the last year, and it's put quite a strain on Leader Dogs for the Blind with respect to support from Lions, because Lions contribute about 17% of our $15 million budget every year. At one point, it was 100%. But over the years, our expenses have grown and we've expanded, and we have other options of getting revenue, but we get no federal funding, no government funding, no United Way. It all comes from people who want to support our organization, from foundations, corporate sponsorships, and third-party events to raise funds for us. So fundraising has been canceled. And some of us haven't been able to attend church. We've done that remotely, and certainly haven't been able to worship the way we would like to. But I want to plant a seed for you. What if you were blind? What if it was time to retire your beloved guide dog who had been your trusted companion for 9 years? What if you were scheduled to come to Leader Dog to receive your next travel guide? And what if you received a phone call from Leader Dog saying, we're all set for you, but unfortunately we've had to close campus. We're not sure when it's going to reopen. And what if you lived in Canada and the borders were closed and no one could tell you when they were going to reopen? And what if the only other person in your household was your spouse, and he was blind as well and used Leader Dog? So there was no human guide to assist you. And what if the days turned into weeks, the weeks turned into months, and the months turned into a year? What would you do? How would you react? How would you feel? Well, this is exactly the position that Lynn was put in. And Lynn went that year without a guide dog. And Lynn, I think, because she's a lion, said, you know what? I understand the position Leader Dog is in, but somehow I've got to get a guide dog. So Lynn took the bull by the horn, if you will, and got engaged in this and worked for herself. And Lynn, would you tell us what steps you took and what you did to get your Leader Dog?
I want to thank everybody for letting me tell them my story today. In January of this year, I took the initiative to contact one of the organizations that helped me with another organization that collaborated with Leader Dogs. Our president for Guide Dog Users of Canada had a guide dog from CNIB Guide Dogs, and she contacted their president, and their president was willing to help me get my dog across the border and collaborate with Leader Dogs to be able to get my dog up here to me.
CNIB is Canadian National Institute for the Blind. They have been in the actual guide dog business for about 5 years or so. The other programs they have for visually impaired are very similar to Guide Dogs of Hawaii, in that they are very supportive of those kinds of things and advocates for people who are blind or visually impaired. So when Lynn reached out to them and they said, yeah, we'll do what we can, that initiated a communication or a conversation between CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind, and Leader Dogs for the Blind. And interestingly enough, you'll find that there's just quite a great network of guide dog mobility instructors around the world. David Lachlan, who manages our programs at Leader Dogs for the Blind, his background was in the UK, the United Kingdom. He had developed a relationship when he was there with the two people who ultimately became the lead trainers at CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind. So they got together and said, there's got to be a way for us to make this work. And they ended up working with, well, Lynn, why don't you pick it up here? How did they get the dog to the border? Once they agreed that what we'll do as an organization is deliver that dog and complete the home delivery. How did the dog get across the border? What happened?
There was all kinds of paperwork that had to be done from Leader Dogs for the Blind's side. The way that my guide dog Leo was able to get up here, they had to use a pet transport company to get him across the border. And then CNIB Guide Dogs, their puppy coordinator, picked him up at the border and then she brought him to me.
Yeah. The amazing thing about this is that the pet transport company could cross the border with a dog in it, but people can't. So those borders are still closed. And I thought one of the things that makes this story so great, and there are several components of it, is that when they made that arrangement with CNIB, and the dog was delivered, was it the next day or that day to you, Lynn?
He was delivered to me late that Tuesday evening.
A little bit after 5.
He was delivered to me a little after 5 on the Tuesday.
Yeah, there are so many interesting things that come into play on this thing, because each of our dogs is matched with their client. And we do the best job we possibly can to make sure we're picking the right dog for that client. And it's based on a number of parameters we look at, one of which is a video that the client or potential client has to supply to us to show where they walk, where they travel, how well they travel right now with or without a guide dog. Can they cross a street without somebody yelling, "Hey, Lynn, over here, over here"? Can they make it? Anyhow, all those things go into it. And we look at the personality of the people that the dog is going to. And it's just not a random selection. Well, let's give Lynn this dog and John this dog and so this dog. It's a very particular process that they actually go through to make sure they make that right selection. So they felt all along they had the very best dog for Lynn. But what makes this really interesting, because in the picture that I have up there right now is Lynn with Casey, and Lynn with Leo, which I think is a great name considering they're lions. That's the name of their dog. And Casey belongs to John. But they also had to make sure that Leo was going to be a right match for Casey, because now we're going into a household that already has a leader dog in it. And not every dog is going to be willing to accept a new dog that comes in. John, how did that match work out? How did they get along, and how was it from the very beginning?
Right from day one, they were best buddies, weren't they, Lynn?
Yes, they were.
But they are very competitive when they work together.
Thanks, John. There's a couple other pieces I'd like to talk about as well. One of the concerns that people might have from the beginning was, well, if leader dog is giving up control, this dog is no longer a leader dog. And that is not the case. The agreement we worked out with CNIB was that it was still a leader dog. And the guide dog mobility instructor that worked with Lynn, was it Shauna? Yeah. She and CNIB agreed that they would make that delivery and teach them, the two of them, Lynn and Leo, using leader dog standards and leader dog procedures and leader dog policies. So it was kind of a learn on the fly and on the go as Lynn and Leo were working. But they also incorporated John and Casey in that training as well.
John, just go to the other room. Just go to the other room.
There we go. So Lynn, how were John and Leo involved in your training? Okay, Lynn, we're not hearing you right now. I think it was something maybe with the phone.
Order. Zoom.
There you go.
There you go. We got you.
What was the question, Mike? I didn't hear you. With
The question is, how did Shauna engage or involve John and Leo in your, Casey in your training?
So when we would go out together, all of us, and we would do a route together, and we would, we'd be doing the route with Leo first and teaching him the route, and then John and Casey would be with us. So then we would, work it where one of us would be in the lead, the other one would be in the lead, just so that both dogs would get used to the route that we were doing.
Yeah, so one of them wasn't always the alpha dog. They each had an opportunity to share those things.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's another picture of Lynn with Leo and John with Casey. They get a little bit of snow. You have to go to the mountains where you folks are, but they get a little bit of snow in Canada and Ontario. And there's a picture of Leo there with some snow. And the two really do get along together well, because if I can get that next slide up here or not, there we go. Yeah, they're catching some Rays and Z's right now. And John and Lynn, there's a picture up there of Casey laying down, all stretched out. They're both in harness, I see. And Leo is has his chin on top of Casey, just kind of enjoying life. One of the things that we always try to do is follow up with our clients, and we are now in about I think it is 49 states in Michigan. The only place we don't have a client right now, 49 states in the United States do we have leader dogs. The only state we're not in is Rhode Island, and we're working on that. And we're about 16 countries around the world that have leader dogs as well. That number is going to probably stay consistent, and if not dwindle, because one of the commitments we make over time is that if you get a leader dog, we're going to follow up. There's follow up after the sale. I hate to use that term because we don't sell these, but it's follow up after the time that the presentation is actually made. So if we have a client in another country, we're going to make sure that we have a relationship with someone else in there, like CNIB. There's going to be able to assist them should they have any difficulties and problems.
Bixby has joined the meeting.
We work with. I want to give you a quick snapshot of our services, and then we'll open this to any questions you might have. And there's no questions off the table, believe me. We've heard them all. And like I tell John and Lynn, if I don't know the answer, I'll just make it up and no one's going to know the difference. But in this last fiscal year, we issued 97 guide dogs, 44 were on campus, 53 were home deliveries. Orientation mobility clients, White Cane, we served 68 O&M clients. 34 were on campus, and for the first time ever, we did home deliveries of orientation mobility or White Cane training. Consider for a minute the challenge here, because it's one thing to send a guide dog mobility instructor on a home delivery where they know they're going to be there for a considerable length of time, and that's been part of the job because that's what they've been doing, home deliveries, for a number of years, and again 43 states and 6 provinces in Canada. But COVID forced us to rethink and reinvent ourselves with respect to White Cane training. So there was a point when the campus was closed. Our goal at Leader Dog is to provide a way to service our clients. And when we weren't able to bring them on campus, for the first time in our history, we did home delivery of White Cane training, which again means we took our guide dog, our O&M mobility instructors, or White Cane instructors, into the home of the client. And consider, if you will, how disruptive this was to the families of our guide dog mobility instructors, our certified orientation mobility instructors, how disruptive it was to their family life, and then coming back to Leader Dog and having to quarantine for 10 to 14 days in that whole process. So this became quite a challenge for us. That program called Summer Experience, we were able to do it virtually and had 21 summer experience kids last year, and we converted ourselves to go virtually as well because of COVID. Chris, I'm pretty much done. I'm going to turn this back over to you, if you will, and if any of your board members have any questions, John, Lynn, and I would be more than happy to try to answer those for you.
All right, Mike, thank you for the presentation. Everybody attending, I apologize, I can't see everybody, all the attendees in one screen at this moment. So if anybody has any questions, if you could, I think there's a raise your hand option, or you can just shout out your that you want to be called upon. So that works too.
Mike Dengett has stopped screen share.
Oh, okay, there we are. Sorry.
There we go.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions? Cynthia?
I noticed that you said that, Mike, that you've had 15,000 dogs and 17,000 clients. So are they the 2,000 clients, or is that for the white cane program?
It's a combination of white cane and some of the other services that we provide as well. There was a time when we did a lot of computer related training and those kinds of things. So that would be part of the additional 2,000. We're no longer doing that because a lot of that is being outsourced to other organizations that they're more proficient and better than we are at that. And also, when a client is having an issue with with one of our guide dogs, we have we've got a group of people we call field service representatives. So they'll go back and make a follow-up visit. So that would be part of what we do as well, and that is in that number.
Second question, if I may. Do you have a percentage of people that you find are not maybe qualified for taking on a leader dog?
I'm going to apologize for some barking in the background. I don't have career change dogs. I've got two. I've got two rescues. Their mom just got home from church and they're going ballistic. So I'll try to answer that for you. The percentage we have, and I don't have that at hand right now. I could get that for you, Cynthia, but it's relatively small. The number of people that are not going to be able to qualify are those that don't have the physical capability of doing it, of handling a dog. And that's the primary reason. They may have another health issue that prevents them from doing that. But again, age 16 to, we don't know what the top end is yet. There are very few clients that are declined their application to get a leader dog. It's a very good question, very important to what we do as well.
Mike?
Yes, John.
Could I please add quickly to her
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am, I don't remember your name, but
Cynthia.
Cynthia, I'm sorry. But I've been a leader dog grad for 33 years. I've had 4 wonderful leader dogs. And I can tell you that in the early years, in my early years, which was 1988, there was a higher rate of people coming into class that weren't qualified. That was due to doctors filling out forms incorrectly and things like that. But today, in these days, leader dog requires that you do a video. So if you have any issues that you don't want people to know about, they're gonna come out in the video. So that kind of helps the process along.
Okay, I'll hand up to Loyal.
Chris, what kind of dogs do you use?
Excellent question. We use 3 breeds. We use Labrador Retrievers, we use Golden Retrievers, and German Shepherds. About 80% of our dogs are Labs, about 15% are Goldens, and about 5% are German Shepherds. We're now doing some crosses. We're crossing Labs with Goldens, and even doing some crosses of Labs and German Shepherds.
Bixby has joined the meeting.
And the reason we use those breeds, because they are very loyal to their clients. They are pretty easy to train with the exception of the German Shepherd. And the real only problem with that is they are typically like a one-person dog. And you consider all the changes they go through before they get to become a leader dog. They're with a puppy raiser for about 12 or 14 or 15 months. So they bonded with that person. And then we bring them back to the leader dog. We put them in a training program, and that dog is then with a guide dog mobility instructor, a trainer, for about 4 or 5 months. And then we take them away from them and present them to a client. And they don't like all the change. That is the only downfall of having a German Shepherd. And many of our clients have had them over the years. They are absolutely incredible guide dogs, but that's the biggest issue with them. But the answer to a trivia question would be, why do you choose those 3 breeds? It's not because of their ability to be trained. It's because they have 2 coats of hair. And that's important because we have guide dogs, we have leader dogs in different climates, like Canada, where we have 3 or 4 seasons and a lot of snow and a lot of ice, but it also gets warm. We have clients we have 2 clients right now in Hawaii. We have clients in Alaska and in different parts of the world. So it's important that the dog is going to be able to function well and be safe and secure under each of those climatic conditions. Excellent question.
Peggy?
Mike, I do a lot of have a lot of interaction with a couple of our members who are associate members of our club, but they're with the Lions Club of Honolulu.
Okay.
And they have members who are associated with the Ho'opono services for the blind here in Honolulu.
Okay.
And I wondered if you folks have approached them or talked to them before.
I don't believe so.
Okay, maybe we'll take it offline and maybe we could connect you up with them. Thank you.
One of the things I was going to get to in a minute, and I'll interject it right here, about ways that you can help us. That is a big way. Connecting us with other organizations that provide services to the blind and visually impaired. I firmly believe the statement I'm going to make right now. I think the 2 best kept secrets unintentionally in the world today is lions and leader dog.
Yeah.
People just don't know about lions. They don't know what we do. We've been around for well over 100 years now, and people still don't understand what lions do. Oh, you sell the canes, right? Once a year? Well, yeah, but we do a lot more than that. And we also, if you look at those numbers I gave you, there are probably 13 or so major guide dog organizations in North America, and I'm including Hawaii and Alaska when I say that. Yeah, I hope I didn't disrespect you when I said that, but for comparative purposes. But only 10% of the people who are blind and visually impaired have a guide dog or cane training and know how to travel with a cane. So there's a lot of opportunities. People just don't know about us. So we really appreciate that. If you could put that in the form of an email or something of the organizations that you're aware of out there that provide some kind of service that we could start to network and partner with. Anyone else?
I actually did have a question kind of about the selection of the dogs themselves.
Sure.
Is there a particular, I guess, age range? Do you pick them up as puppies? Well, it's a 2-part question. First, do you pick them up at a certain their development? And second, what is the training time, I guess, so to speak, for them to be able to take on this role?
That really is an excellent question. We could spend a lot of time on this, Chris, but I'll just go right to the chase in this. We do all our own breeding at Leader Dog. So there was a time we first got started, we used rescues, we accepted donations and those kinds of things. Not anymore. We have our own breeding program, and it enables us to breed through different lines that we have over historically with Leader Dog, and breed out some of the problems that have caused dogs to be career changed, if you will. And we never use the term flunk or fail or those kinds of things. They're career changed. We find something else for them to do or allow them to be adopted. We have about 80 female host families, and those are families that have the female leader dog, who's going to be the mom dog, and about 20 or 30 male breeding stock. So they're brought into Leader Dog to be bred. And actually, if the natural tie doesn't work, we are also certified to do in vitro fertilization. So this has become a major component of what we do at Leader Dogs for the blind. So let's say that the mom dog is impregnated. The gestation period for a dog is 63 days. So that host family is going to be all good to go for about 63 days. Then all heck breaks loose when the puppies are born. And for about 6 weeks, they're going to have to take care of the puppies at home. Then the puppies are brought to Leader Dog. They are vet checked, and they have been along the way, but vet checked, they get their first inoculations and those kinds of things. And then they are presented to a puppy raiser. We have about 420 or so puppy raisers in probably 5 or 6 major states in the continental United States and Canada. And the puppy raiser is going to have that puppy from 12 to 13, and now in some cases 15 or 16 months because of COVID. But they teach them basic socialization skills, Chris. Sit, stay, come. Park is the term we use for a puppy going to the bathroom, and we teach them to park on command so that that person that has the guide dog ultimately can be able to have them park, go to the bathroom on command, and they can then know when it's happening and how to clean up, because it's their responsibility to do that. So they're going to have them for that period. They're going to be brought back to leader dogs for the blind. And then they're going to be vet checked again, thoroughly looked at. We also look at the dogs that are potential to bring out to become breeding stock for us, because we'll do that as well. And if not, then they're going to our guide dog training program. That's going to be on campus with our guide dog mobility instructors, and that could take 4 months or so. And I say or so because if it's a dog that's going to go into Deafblind program, they're going to have another month on campus to work with clients who are going to be, to be trained to work with clients who are deaf as well. And that goes to the hand signals, the American Sign Language, those types of things. So we're talking probably, what, 17, 18 months or something like that, I guess, that, excuse me, let me back up a minute. John, how old was Casey when you got him?
Casey was
22 months.
22 months.
22 months. Yeah, so they're going to be close to 2 years, Chris, by the time they get that dog.
Yeah.
And Leo was over 2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had one last question now, thinking
No.
about the process.
Oh, that's great.
I guess, have you guys kind of figured, I guess, what an estimate would be about how much a person would spend while they have one of these dogs, in terms of like food, health, things like that?
Chris, that is an excellent question. That doesn't come up very often. The clients, and I'll let both Lynn and John speak to that, but the clients are responsible once they leave leader dog for being able to afford and care for that dog. John, Lynn, do you have an estimate of what that costs you on an annual basis?
Yeah, so about once a year, it's about $750 that we spend on vet and food and anything else that these guys need.
Because they get, and believe me, like, and I'm proud of my wife for this. And I mean this, folks. These dogs get the best of everything. We make sure that they get the canine influenza vaccines. They get any vaccine that our vet thinks that they should have.
Now, John and Lynn and I haven't talked about this specifically, but with many veterinarians, they work with many of our clients, and I'm not suggesting that they all do, because they all don't, but many of them provide their services at a lesser rate for people who have a service dog or a guide dog. And I don't know if yours does or not, John.
Yeah, they do. It's
50%.
It's 50% that we get off of the services.
And that's like shots and everything.
Yeah.
And that really helps.
Did that help, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I only ask because I know a lot of when you these types of needs that are kind of outside of the, out of the day-to-day periphery. That's kind of one of the questions that doesn't get asked. So thank you for answering that.
I will add this, and again, this isn't every Lions Club that does this, but I'm aware of several Lions Clubs that also work with clients that are in their area or may even be a club member. and help them as much as they can if they know there's an economic challenge that the family or the client is facing. So there's a lot of ways to work on that, but that is a concern, and that's one of the things we have to look at, unfortunately, when we look at that application, to see that they are going to have the funds available to be able to work with that guide dog. These are really good questions.
Yes.
Thought-provoking.
Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask? I'm really good at awkward silence, so.
And keep, Mike, if I could,
Sure.
just keep in mind, folks, that these dogs, like our great friend Mike has said, they are free to us, the client, but they are worth, the last time I heard, and if I'm wrong, Mike, go ahead, $46,000.
That is correct. And this was BC, before COVID,
Yes.
because COVID has caused those expenses to go up, because unfortunately we've been able to issue fewer dogs over that time period, but we still have the expenses of training those dogs and preparing them to be a leader dog. We don't have the new numbers, but I can promise you it's going to be well north of $46,000. But again, because of the support we get from people who just love our mission, love the things we do, and the amazing support we get from Lions, every one of those services is absolutely free to our clients. And one thing I didn't mention, and once again, we're the first guide dog organization in the United States to offer this. We give a handheld GPS, or offer a handheld GPS to each of our clients. Guide dog clients, most of them use it. White cane clients, some would rather not, because it's a little more difficult for them to navigate. But it's something called the Victor Reader Trek, and it's from Humanware. And John, could you take just a minute and tell us what this does for you?
Yes, I've got one here in my hand, and I'm trying to figure out how to get it to you. But what it is, it's an MP3 player, book reader, note taker, internet radio listening device. But the best part about it, it's got GPS. And for a totally blind person like me, it's got great big, well, not huge buttons, but
But it's got very
it's got big,
tactile.
yeah, it's very tactile. So on the cold Canadian winter days,
You're getting no sympathy.
Oh, yeah, I know. I can use it. And Lynn has one too. When we both got our brand, well, when Lynn got Leo and I got Casey, I got one of these. And it's like your MasterCard. We don't leave home without it.
Yeah. John, we were not able to see it, and you and I will work on that. But it's about the size of, what would you liken it to? Cell phone? A little larger
It's
than
about
that?
the size of a deck of cards.
About a deck of cards.
Yeah.
All that technology.
Except
and it-
fatter. It's a
yeah.
little.
Yeah, it's a little fatter than a deck of cards.
It costs us, our cost is $695, but once again, because of the support we get from people like you, it is no charge to our clients.
Yeah,
And it's so great.
it is.
We use them a lot.
Mhm.
And Mike,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but one point that I'd really like to make, when you talked about Lynn's situation, getting her new dog, one thing I'd like you to remember, fellow Lions and think about is this, if I can get through it. Leader Dogs for the Blind never gave up on Lynn, and she never gave up on Leader Dogs for the Blind. This was just meant to be.
Yes, and I have an awesome little dog from them.
Thanks for sharing that, John. Chris, what else can we do for you?
Hello?
Hi, Jeannie.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry. I was in the show the whole time. I was just having trouble with my mic. It wasn't thing, but yes, I'm Jeannie Torres, and if I may, I'd like to comment on a few things that were said in the presentation. In referring to your statistics, I know there was a question of how many individuals would have been deemed unqualified or ineligible for guide dogs. Well, from where we are over here in Hawaii with Guide Dogs of Hawaii, what we do is we work with clients here to get them ready for a guide dog. We realize the investment that goes into training, breeding, and partnering these dogs. The investment is extremely large. So we, on our side, we try to prepare our residents here, to leave and come back successful. So that, and I'm sure that is, the same for other states in the United States where, we try to make sure the individuals are ready. So the rate of success in getting a guide dog is greater. And the other thing I wanted to point out in response to the question about how clients are able to care for their dogs.
Yes.
Again, as you pointed out in your stats, majority of the individuals come from, fixed income individuals. They're more in the lower income bracket. And what we do at Guide Dogs of Hawaii is when individuals come home with their dogs and they sign up for our Guide Dogs Optimal Wellness Program, we take care of their foods, and we don't endorse grocery brand food, but we endorse more holistic, organic foods. So our client, any client that, comes back would take advantage of that. We also offer, periodically we would give out, tools for the dogs, or furniture, their beds and food dish when they need to replace it. Realizing again that the client does not always have the budget to afford these things, but to balance it and be able to allow these dogs to work at their optimal level, they need to be in optimal care, health. And we take that very seriously on our side, is to make sure that the dogs are well maintained so that they can do the best for their partner, wherever their partners may come from.
Jean, is it Jean or Jeannie? I should know this. What do you prefer? Pardon me? Jeannie? Okay. I am so impressed with what I have seen from your organization. I've spent a good deal of time over the last few weeks on your website. You just do some amazing things with the people that you serve and your efforts to improve their quality of life with the products, with the services that you provide. I look forward to being able to have some collaborative efforts with you and your organization, because you fulfill a need, as you pointed out, that is so telling out there of, again, people who just don't have the wherewithal right now, the ability, the finances, and those kinds of things to be able to perhaps afford the dog, as we talked about. But there are also so many other types of things you do in your organization that assist them in preparing themselves for this challenging world that we're all engaged in right now. So I commend you for what you do and for the clients that you serve. I love the website. I love you've got something. You've got something about the heart program you have, Jeannie.
Yeah, Wall of Hearts. Yeah.
The Wall of Hearts. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it. I love the concept.
Oh, well, I also wanted to add that, Guide Dogs of Hawaii was formerly Eye of the Pacific, and we established way back in 1952. And the Lions Club of Hawaii was a very, very big part of that. If you go back into your archives, you'll find that the Lions had supported Guide Dogs, well, at the time, Eye of the Pacific, when we had our training center here. But ever since we partnered with former Attorney General Michael Lilly in working to get guide dogs excluded from quarantine, that's when we turned, our focus to other areas where we can help clients not only prepare for guide dogs, but, what's the point in having a brand new spanking looking great, working guide dog if you've got nowhere to go? So we work at equipping people with tools, opportunity, and, a broad interest so that they'd have places to go. And we fully endorse guide dogs. We still believe, although we do not, offer guide dogs at this time, we do still firmly believe that, every blind person, may have a potential to work with a guide dog.
Thanks,
so I'm
Jeannie.
working real hard. Yeah, I'm working real hard to get these kids, especially our young ones, prepared and ready for guide dog training.
Oh, by the way, you just mentioned something that spurred my memory once again. I have trouble with memory from time to time, but I mentioned a few minutes ago, one of the programs we have is a summer experience camp. We have yet to have a kid, if you will, from Hawaii attend summer experience camp.
Working on it.
Good. Well,
yeah.
And I talked to the head of our department on that just the other day, and I said, "What about Hawaii?" And she said, "Well, what about it?" I said, "Well, would you accept someone from Hawaii?" Absolutely. So if you folks can find a 16 or 17-year-old who is blind, who would like to participate in our summer experience camp, let us know. Fill out that application, get it sent off to us. And Jeannie, get working on that for us if you would, please. And I know you are, but we'd love to have somebody from Hawaii participate in our summer experience camp.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, all I can say, well, I am a graduate of Leader Dogs, okay, and I'm not biased because I've got dogs, I've had dogs from 3 different training centers. I've worked with Guide Dogs Victoria of Australia and Royal New Zealand for the blind, and now Leader Dogs. But I think it's important to realize, to know that the reason why I selected Leader Dogs was because I was impacted by the scope of services and, the reach, the real wide reach that Leader Dog has opened up. Like Guide Dogs of Hawaii, we want to give people opportunities to reach their own individual goals and their own potential. And what I saw from Leader Dog when I was exploring what school I wanted to get my next guide from, I realized that this was not just a guide dog school in itself, but it actually has elements in its programs to expand the potential of individuals and to give opportunities. And I was so impressed when I saw that there was a program for deafblind, because I have clients that are deafblind, profoundly, and oftentimes these kids don't have exposure to guide dogs on a regular basis. So when they come into Guide Dogs of Hawaii, we expose them to the dogs and, we get them to love them first, right? And then, and we've got kids, and I've got one girl. She's about 20 now, finishing high school, and she's, you know, working really hard so that she can get a guide dog. And I'm working on that one, you know. So I have kids now that are between 18 and 20 that are, you know, would have been going out to leader dogs had not been for the pandemic, but we're coming out of it, and you'll hear from me.
Good.
That's
Thanks for
great.
sharing all that, Jeannie. Thanks for your vote of confidence.
Yes.
Oh,
Chris,
All right. Any final questions, anybody? Going once, going twice. All right, Mike, I think that's it for us. Thank you for joining us and speaking with us today about what it is that you guys do. This has been very enlightening, to say the least. It does address a very specialized need, so that I didn't even think that was that I didn't even think that had come to mind about it. So thank you guys for sharing that with us and putting that kind of on the radar. You know, we do look forward to having continued conversations with you guys, and hopefully connect you guys to other organizations or groups or resources that are available around.
that would be great, Chris. And once again, we want to thank you for the opportunity. And as I explained early on, I don't have a bucket list, but on my list of things I want and organizations and clubs I wanted to contact, we wanted to make a trip to
We did.
Hawaii, and we had an opportunity to do that today, and you made it happen for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Don, we can tell you mahalo, which means thank you in Hawaiian.
Oh, thank you.
So mahalo.
Mahalo back at you.
Yes, mahalo.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Again, hit the like and subscribe button at the bottom of the screen, somewhere down there. I can't point to it at the moment, but thanks for joining us. On behalf of the Hawaii, thanks for joining.